Alright, guys, we are here with Inside Star Citizen, and we're just going to go through it. We're going to play it, but I do have guys outside my window who are workmen talking, so I'm going to mute while I don't have anything to say. But let's watch it, and we'll stop it periodically and go from there.
IAE is here, and with it the biggest showcase of ships and vehicles this side of the Stanton system. And over the next 2 weeks, we've got videos galore dedicated to the new ships being introduced, the in-universe companies that create them, the way that we make them out here IRL, and updates and reworks to some fan favorites currently in the pipeline. But to get things started this week, it's time to talk starter ships, why they matter to the overall scheme of things.
Alright, so the cutter is definitely a starter ship then, so that's hashtag confirmed.
Who needs one and why, and introduce you to the newest making their debut in tomorrow's showcase.
The purpose of a starter ship is a player's first entry into the game that gives them that little taste of what the game can do.
It should be relatively simple, straightforward, easy to fly, and should provide access to as many different game loops as possible.
They matter in the overall scheme of things because everyone has to start somewhere, so why not start with a little ship that can do a little bit of most things acceptably well to get you ready for the bigger universe. Even if you had every ship in the game, starships still have a purpose in that sometimes you don't want to risk your big value ships or vehicles.
Multiplayer or like finding people to play with isn't always like that evident, and you might just feel like playing for an hour or so, and then a starter ship is perfect because you don't have to have a whole team.
No one that jumps in Star Citizen is only playing for an hour. It takes you about half an hour to get your stuff ready, and then to unget ready. So like to go to a space station, spawn in, get your ship, get your armor that you've probably lost because you died from the previous game. You know, just general stuff like that. No one's playing for just an hour though.
Team to man it.
They're also fun when you're doing something like a Zero to Hero run to get you started. And
is that a relation to HC Vertigo? Because I think it was him or Astropub that started the whole Zero to Hero actually.
On your way.
Zero to Hero is when people start out with one of the basic ships and try and work their way up using only in-game loops and in-game currency to buy one of the larger ships for a certain goal they set themselves.
I personally enjoy doing that sometimes because it gives you a new perspective on the game. When you first came into the game, maybe it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, the experience then is different to the experience now, so it gives you that reset and sort of relearn of the game.
I think you just made one hell of a good decision.
a lot of our current lineup of starter ships were developed back before our game loops really became a proper thing. And that means that we're in a really good position at the moment to introduce a modern starter ship that is set up to work with our modern game loops.
So my problem with this, right, is if this Drake Cutter is going to be the new starting ship, right, and it's going to do multiple game loops, are they going to go back and also do that to the Aurora? Or the Mustang? Or the Pisces? So that would be my question.
And that's where the Drake Cutter comes in.
The Drake Cutter is Drake's entry into the starter ship market. It provides
Still looks like a caterpillar or a slug.
a well-rounded experience for one person to just go take on all that the verse can offer.
It's a ship that is very straightforward in the way that it's designed. It's designed to get a starter player from A to B as safely as possible while they do their starting gameplay loops.
You'll notice the materials and the whole look of the ship and how it's built. It's not really aerodynamic. It's very bolted on and like put together out of like different kinds of metals, and like some are more rusty than others. It's using the Vulture VTOLs. It's also using that Drake signature cladding and paneling that's like bolted on top. It's very functional but robust and slightly janky looking.
I think my favorite part of it is actually the way that it flies. It's got big engines, but quite small maneuvering thrusters, which means that it's relatively fast in a straight line, but as soon as you start trying to turn, you really begin to feel the weight of the ship, because it's quite a heavy ship for a starter. And that gives it a lot of character. And I think as most of the time that you spend in your ship, you'll be flying it, I think it's very important that we get that sort of thing right. It has a relatively large interior, the largest of any starter ship.
Everything is quite tactile on the inside. There's lots of levers and clunky buttons rather than holographic displays. You don't have the finer cladding on the inside that other manufacturers would do. It's all exposed insulation and pipe work just to give it that no frills spared experience.
As the ramp lowers, you're greeted by the cargo hold. This is where most of the components live in their component bays.
So 4SCU, yep, confirmed.
And this is also where cargo is stored. You have a door at the back of the cargo area that leads you through into the hab, which is where the basic amenities that...
Oh wow! Starter ship from Drake has a bed, hashtag confirmed, and possibly toilet.
kind of comes with our... You have your little bathroom.
Hashtag toilets.
Bed with a little reading light. A little storage locker and some shelving. And then through on the other side of the hab is the cockpit, which is where the last two components live, the pilot seat and dashboard.
Maybe gun racks over here on the right side. Are they gun racks? Maybe. There, gun racks. Maybe. Don't know. Look, I'm not saying I don't like this ship. I think they've done an amazing job with the ship. It looks fantastic. But it's not my type of ship. You know, I like my ships to look less sluggish and more like a Crusader. But I like it. It's going to be a very popular starter ship. It looks really, really good. Everything looks really, really well. Like, they have nailed this. This is 10 out of 10 for a starter ship.
The thing I like about the cutter the most is just how evolved it is compared to some of the other starter ships. It has a cockpit with a really tactile experience in it. It has onboard living quarters and storage, as well as an actual cargo bay that you can fit cargo and larger things in. So it gives you lots of variety in what you can do with it.
The Drake cutter is for everyone.
Okay, so I would say that if you're after a starter ship, if you're just getting into the game, the Drake Cutter is probably the best starter ship that you are going to have. If you're flying around in an Aurora or something like that, think about melting it and getting the cutter. I would suggest definitely doing that.
It's a simple starter ship that everyone will be able to find a use for. In every fleet, there is a use for a small, tough, relatively fast ship.
Compared to the other starters, I think a lot of it comes down to personal preference on looks. It's quite a cool looking ship. It's got a bunch of little cool features, like I love the little slidey armor windows that you can pop into place. And yeah, it's just quite well-rounded.
It has access to more gameplay loops than you'll get in any other starter. You'll be able to carry other people. You'll be able to carry a vehicle if you're careful. You'll be able to very easily get mission boxes in and out. You can do a little bit of bounty hunting if you're very careful.
Oof.
It makes a very good explorer because it has very large fuel tanks compared to the other starter ships. It's like we took a Cutlass and made it tiny.
I would say home
The
run.
Cutter is Drake's first foray into starter ships
10
in the
out of
Persistent
10.
universe, and will become available to all players straight to flyable when the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo 2952 launches proper tomorrow. But who is Drake Interplanetary, creator of the new Cutter, shunned antagonist of Invictus Launch Week, and this year's sponsor of IAE? Let's find out more.
Do you have a favorite Drake ship?
I love the Buccaneer. I used to be able to really wreck some stuff in that ship.
Buccaneers is
Although
not a
the
bad
Cutlass is really
fighter,
good 'cause
actually.
again, it can be good in dogfight and it can also, transport some stuff. But I have a real soft spot for the Buccaneer. I'm very excited for the Corsair. I don't know if I can talk about that one, but that one looks super cool.
It's literally behind you on the screen.
Yeah, that one. That one looks cool. I like the wings, and the asymmetry is cool.
I don't like the
Drake
asymmetry.
Interplanetary is one of our bigger ship manufacturers, but they sort of, in a nutshell, kind of sell themselves as the bad boys of ship manufacturing. They have a reputation of being a popular ship among criminals, which sort of implies that they're kind of courting that demographic, which is somewhat true, but not entirely true. They're very much a legitimate organization. They're a proper business, but they kind of very much take the stance of we're not responsible for what people do with our product. We're going to make highly modular, easily repairable, kind of cheap products. And if people happen to use those for crime, well, that's their choice. We have nothing to do with it. Another aspect to it too is the fact that they're so affordable and versatile as far as their ships. That's made them very common. So it's also one of those things. It's like why it's popular for criminals is that it becomes a very low profile type ship. So the idea being that if I want to commit a crime, I don't want to be driving a supercar. I want to be driving a car that a lot of other people are driving, so I can kind of blend in a little
I
bit
would
easier.
also
So
say
it's
because
been
they're
fun kind of
cheap.
riding that line of them sort of teasing their criminal connections while not overtly being a criminal corporation. And so over the past couple of years, their marketing has shifted to much more of a, take back the power. We're trying to provide weapons and tools for the people because you can't trust the government or the military to save you. You need to have the tools to be able to do that yourself. So that's been kind of the thing that's been driving them for the past couple of years, and is certainly keying into the current IAE that they're co-sponsoring. Part of the reason why Drake is one of the sponsors of this year's IAE, aside from the fact that they were releasing a handful of ships, we were trying to figure out what would make most sense for them to be to contribute towards a theme, because that's always kind of a big discussion point when we start tackling each year's IAE. If you're familiar with our Fleet Week event, Drake always runs a counter program to it. So once Fleet Week is over, there's what's called Defense Con, which is Drake's answer, if you will, to Fleet Week, because Drake and the military have a bit of a contentious relationship. See, in their past, the first ship that Drake manufactured was the Cutlass, and they made it as a contender for a military contract. And so the military shot them down. They ended up just saying, hell with it, and we'll release it to the public. And that's how they basically got their start. So there's a little bit of contentiousness between Drake and the military. And so with IAE, their kind of bold message is the military is useless. Basically, you can't trust them. They're not going to be.
Not saying I disagree with the real world military. Don't get me wrong. I love our military vets. I love the soldiers and everything like that. I've got military all through my family. But the people that run the military are just retarded sometimes.
Be there for you. You need to be in charge of your own destiny, and you need to protect your family, and we're going to provide you the tools to be able to do that. And so one of the fun things, because that's very much on display with a lot of the Defense Con, like branding and advertisements and stuff like that. But one of the fun things is IAE is a much more kind of chill event. It's more downplayed, more low key. IAE as an organization, we like to sort of, talk about them in kind of brand words. So like they're much more intellectual. They're focused on engineering and innovation and stuff like that. And then you have Drake coming in, basically saying like, screw the government, and IAE having to be like, whoa, pump the brakes there, guys. So it becomes a fun balance between finding those moments where Drake kind of pushes through their edginess and overrides the IEE, and also where IEE is able to kind of rise up to kind of tamp down their more provocative messaging.
I'm starting to like Drake more and more. I really am.
For those living in the past, it's a new generation, and Drake don't give a damn about their bad reputation. Yeah. Drake is often the manufacturer of choice for those who value pragmatism and clarity of purpose over luxury and over-engineered styling, and look to celebrate this ethos as sponsor of this year's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. But at the other end of the manufacturer spectrum is Origin, famous for their extravagance and leisure, but slightly infamous in their mishandling of the original 600i rollout. Let's find out what went wrong the first time around and take a look at how the team aims to address the issues in the current internal concept rework.
So the 600i had a lot of issues when it first came out, and Morphologist has done an amazing video pointing all those out. I'm interested to see what is the rework and what it looks like. From the photos and that I've seen, that looks freaking amazing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what it is and how it goes. Alright, so let's do this. So I just got a drink.
So the 600i, when it first came out, was one of those ships that we talked about in the past that has had a troubled development.
The original 600i, its core issue was what we prioritized for space. The rear was a massive habitation area where there was pool tables and bars. And then you had the very front of the ship, which had the bridge and the captain's quarters. And then it forced the entirety of the core gameplay loops of the ship to live in the middle of it. So you had this small module where everything needed to happen.
If you're designing spaceships, you kind of need to make sure that everything's there for a reason. And when we get to the point where we've got kind of big unused areas of the ship that don't really support functionality, it just feels like a wasted opportunity.
The 600i was done relatively early for Origin as a brand. We'd had the 300, and it was the first really big Origin ship that we decided to do. Since then, we've obviously tackled much larger Origin ships with the 890, and throughout the course of the 890, the Origin style completely evolved from what it was, which you had some very technical and wooden surfaces, to instead have this lovely transition that goes between them, which can be seen across the 890, the clear but smooth divide between the different sections of the ship.
In terms of reworking the 600i, we had a sort of very clear brief. We want to bring it up to modern day standards. So there's a lot of features that didn't exist in the game there or weren't accounted for at the time, to integrate those into the ship now, and then to also make better use of the space, because anyone that's been on board a 600i knows there's a lot of walking and going up and down to get to where you want to, and it doesn't really need to be like that.
Currently, the 600i is concept complete. There's a couple of rooms which haven't had full concept work done on them, such as the crew quarters, but for the most part, every room has had a complete and utter rework.
The big change for the module section is its placement. So rather than being the sort of central core of the ship that you had to go through to get to the back half of the ship, it is now in the rear section of the ship, which allowed us to move the common shared areas to the central section. We did that change because it just makes the flow of the interior better. When you have a 600i, regardless of which module you have, you know the front half of the ship is a consistent experience, and then the gameplay alterations with that module is constrained to a very specific area at the back.
So the best way to think of the 600i layout is between three parts. You have the very front of the ship, which is the bridge and the captain's quarters. For the most part, they've remained mostly the same. There's been a few tweaks to the layout of the chairs on the bridge, but generally that hasn't changed very much. The captain's quarters is almost the same as it was before, except it's flipped around. The bathroom moved from one side to the other. The reason for that is directly behind that, the lobby area. On the top deck, we now have a small docking collar with space for a few suits, and the opposite side of that is now a lift to take you between two floors into the rear, the exterior of the ship.
Directly behind that, which used to be the modular section, we now have on the top deck the crew habitation area. So it starts off with a large open shared communal space where there's places to eat, make food, and then to the side of that there's 4 private crew bedrooms. The floor beneath that now is where engineering and all the components that allow the ship to function have been moved to. Think very similar to what we've done on the 400i, where you have the separate engineering section beneath. Directly behind that, we then have the ship modular section. We'll start with the expedition version. So on the top deck, at the very, very top, we have the armory. There's a huge armory with plenty of extra suit lockers for you and your friends to take
I like
extra
this.
equipment
This
depending on
looks
what
good.
you encounter. Behind that, we then have the hologlobe that allow you to do the exploration. On the middle deck, we then have the medical bay, which will have a medical suite similar to that as the Carrack. It'll have a tier 2 med bed. Beside that, we then have the secondary cargo hold. So this cargo hold, it's more readily accessible for the crew. So it's more for your day-to-day supply. So if you want to have a box full of your food or your snacks, that's where you put it instead of down in your main cargo hold, because you don't want to go rooting through your garage just to find that random pen that you've left. On the bottom deck of the expedition version, we then have the main cargo hold and garage. So obviously, as you've seen from the pictures from the recent Inside Star Citizen, it is much, much larger than it was before, with a much, much larger lift to fit much larger vehicles in it. In there, there's also 2 small lifts, one to allow you to bring cargo up to the main cargo area, and then there's the smaller one that goes through the 3 decks. Moving on to the touring variant, we get a completely different experience. The touring's primarily split between 2 main decks, though one of the decks is across 2 floors. So the upper deck brings you out into the large lobby area. From the lobby area, you can choose to go up the side staircases to the main meeting area / eating room, as well as a bar. And if you go left and right from there, you can get to the private guest suites. Private guest suites are very large and luxurious. They also come with their own skate pods. The lower deck is a spa. So the spa has a pool, a sauna, bar, as well as a kitchen for the crew to actually be able to make food for the guests.
So whilst we're kind of doing a complete, or almost a complete rework of the interior, on the exterior of the ship, we're trying to keep it as true to how it is now as we possibly can. There will be some slight changes. We'll need to move the hangar bay doors a little bit. There'll be some additional kind of cutouts for escape pods, and we need to fit the airlock in properly. So there will be some minor changes, but overall we're trying to keep it as close to what you see now as a 600 as we can.
So next step is essentially just finding a slot in the production schedule for it.
It's about finding the space where we can start doing the production art and designers can get on board with actually making it come alive again. We're all super excited with the work that we've actually done on it. It's just trying to actually get the schedule to align so that we can begin the work on it. It's not going to start today or tomorrow, but it is something we're looking to try and include as soon as we can.
I think people should be excited for this rework just because of the significant improvements that the ship gets from this. Not only is a much better interior layout for it, even without the modules, the rest of the ship has just got a good improvement. Components are also updated, and it has extra features such as the med bay, which will just improve the gameplay role of the ship.
So yeah, that's an update on the 600i. It's been a bit of a curvy road to get to where we are now, and there's still some work ahead of us before we can really deliver it to the players in the format that we want. But I hope everyone's as excited as we are about kind of finally delivering the original vision of what we want the 600 to be. And I hope everyone has a great IAE.
I like it.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that Drake is making their way into the starter ship game with the addition of a cutter. That it's available to everyone starting tomorrow with this year's IAE event. That Drake itself knows what some folks think about them, but is going to keep on keeping on because they're actually sort of the best. And that it will take a while yet before the 600i rework comes to fruition, but the path forward will be one that's well worth the wait and finally allows this fan favorite to realize its fullest potential in the persistent universe. Now don't forget that in addition to the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, there's the annual free fly that goes along with it, and your chance to try out nearly every ship and vehicle that Star Citizen has to offer. Be sure you check out the robertspaceindustries.com website for the full details, and then come back tomorrow for a fun twist on our annual IAE ship roundtable for Star Citizen Live. We actually have a roundtable now, or at least a 6-sided triangle, or a triangle-shaped hexagon. you can be the judge. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you all here next week.
So there was no mention of the Galaxy or the MCV or the Pisces med ships, but we know they possibly should be at the expo, especially the Galaxy and the Pisces. We definitely saw the Pisces and then the Galaxy in the files. We haven't seen much of the MCV, but who knows? Maybe concept art. At the end of the day, I like the 600. 600 high is really, really good, and I'm interested. And as for the Drake, look, the Drake, it's the cutter is a really good ship. If I was having around a starter ship, I would definitely take the Drake. I don't like the look of it, but for practicality, it has a bed, it has a toilet, it has 4 SCUs of storage. She's fast. Really can't beat it for a starter ship. But guys, let us know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. Obviously, this video has been helpful. Please smack a like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. Apart from that, guys, we'll see you in the next demonetized video from YouTube. Have a great night and enjoy.